Hello, my name is Jacqueline Luna, and my partner Lucy Zepeda and I will be presenting on the relation between parent competence and parent-child interaction with a consideration of culture. To begin with, research conducted by Benito Gomez and Rojas have found that parenting interventions are shown to be effective in improving the quality of parenting behaviors, reducing child behavior problems, and increasing overall family well-being. However, the majority of research on the effectiveness of parenting interventions has been conducted with a focus on white and Western populations. We aim to address this lack of consideration of cultural factors by examining the relationship between parent-centered variables such as parent stress, nurturance, and limit setting, and observed parent-child interactions for English and Spanish-speaking families. This study included a sample of 138 caregiver-infant dyads from 0 to 3 years old that were recruited from a lower income sample that qualified for early Head Start services in the Denver metro area. The final sample comprised of 78 Spanish-speaking families and 38 English-speaking families. Replay interactions between the parent and child were recorded during home visits to code serve and return behaviors. A serve is an initiation of communication from the parent or child, and it can be verbal, such as speaking, or non-verbal, like picking up an object. A return is a basic response to a serve, and it can also be verbal, such as answering a question, naming an object, or commenting on an activity, or nonverbal, such as responding via gesture, facial expressions, or actions. The serves and returns were coded as RZ, RY, or RX, with the aid of a detailed glossary and flowchart to evaluate levels of reciprocal back and forth interaction. An RZ code meant that there was a full serve and return from the caregiver and infant. If it was coded as RY, there was only one serve and no return from the caregiver or infant. And lastly, a parent-child interaction was labeled as RX if there was a lack of engagement from the parent or child, such as looking or interacting with another person or object. Parents were asked to complete several questionnaires about their exposure to stress and their parenting beliefs using the Self-Efficacy Parenting Task Index, Parenting Distress, and Parenting Sense of Competence. Their scores were used as part of our evaluation of the association between parenting measures and parenting behaviors during free play interactions.
We found differences between English and Spanish-speaking families in their self-report scores and in their observed behavior interactions. In Spanish-speaking families, parenting distress was correlated with low reciprocity and negatively correlated with higher reciprocity. This means that Spanish-speaking families showed a significant relationship between parental stress and reciprocity, where stress was correlated with lower levels of back and forth interaction, and lower stress was correlated with higher amounts of mutual interaction. It is important to note this correlation was not found in English-speaking families. As for the English-speaking families, SEPTI nurturance and discipline limit setting are significantly correlated with lack of engagement between parent and child. Discipline limit setting being correlated with a lack of engagement can mean that parents who have strict boundaries may lead their children to be withdrawn during free play, but the correlation between nurturance and lack of engagement was not expected and warrants future research. These relationships were not found in the Spanish-speaking families. These observed differences between English and Spanish-speaking families highlight cultural differences between parents from these two groups and how it affects the way they interact with their children. These results were found when accounting for differences in language spoken by the families, which is an important part of a person's culture. This study shows that linguistic differences do matter and that cultural norms can influence parent and child relationships. Future studies should bear in mind that cultural factors of families when designing and implementing a parenting study.